Alright, what you see here is a Minka Aire Mesa hugger ceiling fan. I got this from Brandon C. Johnson about 5 years ago now, I'd say. It was like back in 2016. Well, towards the end of this year, it'll be 5 years since I got it. And I had this fan installed here in the original fan basement before I moved all the fans to the storage unit. I would have this fan running 24/7 basically. The only time I would ever be off really is if I went to the Dominican Republic for the summer or in the wintertime, or if it was taken down to test a fan on the test mount here. I'd use this 24/7 mostly because the basement gets pretty hot in the wintertime and also it's pretty hot in the summer. So I just need something to kind of keep it cool down here, just to move some air. But since I'm not really using it no more, and also the wooden board that seals up the basement's expanding and such, so there's some air getting in here compared to before. I don't really need it down here no more. Plus, I'm not really using this space except for just testing, so there's really no point keeping it installed here. I was using it in the other basement for a short amount of time, like maybe a few months. But then I ended up having to take everything out of that basement as well. But at the same time, I wasn't really using that basement. It was just to keep the display going in a sense. I was going to use it to store some glassware and stuff, but the basement's in such bad condition, I'd rather not even keep anything over there. But yeah. I have not cleaned this fan ever since it's been uninstalled. In fact, all the dust you see on it is from when it was running over on this side, basically. And just a little bit that was added onto it from when it was over in the other basement. But yeah, this fan definitely got quite a bit of use, without a question. It's probably gonna get more dirty, considering how I leave it running all the time, and the fact that the basement's filthy, with a ton of dust everywhere. But since it's not so much static down here, it kind of made it trickier for the dust to stick onto the blades. But yeah. This replaced the end competite that used to be in this spot of the basement. Then I moved it over to the entry area of this basement later on, as I wanted something a little bit more stronger in this spot, and also something that I could leave running and not have it be so noisy, as this is a pretty quiet fan. But yeah, it's a pretty good performer. I was gonna reinstall this in the fan storage, but with with a spare one that I had bought, but then I ended up getting 4 of them by mistake. So I figured this would be a good time just to use 4 of them there and just let this one get retired for the time being until I get my own place and reinstall it in a basement or something like that in the future. But yeah, it's definitely a fan that's grown quite close to, like, something that's become a bit sentimental to me. It's a very shop fan in a sense. The ankle petite was something I was using here for the time being, but it wasn't really something that I wanted to make into an actual shop fan and such. It was just what would fit there. And when I put it in the entry area, kind of the same case, but I figured it might as well. It was more of like just a fan on the display type thing, if anything. But over here, it was definitely more, this one over here was more of a fan to actually have it as a daily runner. Or a 24/7 runner, if anything. But yeah. It's definitely nostalgic kind of seeing it put back up here almost a year later that I moved everything out of here. But yeah. It is from August of 2013, so it's a little bit older than the other ones that I have at the storage unit. Another thing that's different with this one is that it just has a plastic thing that goes there, whereas the newer ones have like a screw, like a Phillips screw marking on the bottom of it. I like the look of this one more. I think it looks more classy. But yeah, here it is on the low speed. This fan I got new in the box from Brandon. And something that's interesting about it, the box that it came with, I ended up recycling it because I didn't really need it. And it was also such a small box too, but On the box, it actually had instead of it being a white pull chain, it was just a wood one and such. Now these fans have been sold for a long time. They've actually been sold like way back in the 90s. If you watch one of Dan Spiffy Newman's videos of a Aire ceiling fan catalog, you'll see that they have these in them. And they actually did come in antique brass, polished brass, white and brass as well. So they definitely were sold in quite a bit of finishes back then. And honestly, it looks so much like an Emerson Snugger, to be honest. Just it doesn't have the filigree side vents. I wouldn't be surprised that the performance is the same on both of them. I'm not sure who makes these. It might be Halsey or something like that. Switch housing kind of makes me think of that. But for a showroom quality fan, like for a budget model, it's definitely a good performer. I mean, usually these retail for like around 80 to 100 and something, 20-ish dollars. And I say 120-ish more so because that's what the showroom near me sells them for in this size. About 100-ish dollars, something like that. But even then, it's really not a bad price for it, for the performance you get out of it. I don't know if you can find it cheaper, definitely do that. But yeah, it's dead quiet. It's a really nice fan for like a shop. I figure I just get it back up on the test mount because it's been a while since I actually did a full test video of it. So I figured I'd just do a remake on it before I clean it up, store it away. And also, I never did an iMovie video on it and such, so. I did one on the other two, but I forgot to do one of this. Those videos are still private at the moment, but they will be going public pretty soon. Oh, they probably might be already public by the time you see this one. Who knows? I had done a video, an iMovie video of it, but after moving everything out of here, I had realized that I actually missed a clip in it. So that's kind of the other reason why I'm redoing the video of it now. But yeah, this fan's been through some beatings here and there in terms of like it being uninstalled so many times to test something in its place on the test mount. I had wanted to try to move it like somewhere over here and like kind of have it like right here, but just this would have been a tricky situation. But yeah, it's gotten a little bit scuffed right there, as you can see. I remember one time I had dropped it from the stool that I was sit on. I was placed the motor there for a bit, and then it fell. It's fallen a few times. More so on the back, not so much on the switch housing, thankfully. Not from like the ceiling and such, but like off of like a shelf or a bin I had placed it on. When I get my own place, I would definitely either install it in like a garage, a basement, like over a laundry area possibly. Not in a shed. I try to put something cheaper in a shed. But it's definitely getting its own spot when I get my own place. When I get like maybe like a 2-family home or something like that, or a small house. Yeah, the medium speed on this, you'd think it was a high speed. Most of the fans of this size, usually this is the high speed that they have on them. Even on the medium speed, it does a really good job for a fan of its size. So this is my first Minka Aire ceiling fan. Definitely want to try to get a few more of them, especially the Supras. There's an antique brass ones more specifically, since it was a childhood for me. But I mean, I think this is also like the first. Yeah, no, it's definitely like my first newer economical type fan that I got. That's from like a showroom brand. I mean, yeah, the Coastal Breeze, you can kind of consider that one, but in terms of like something that's more recent, after like going into the 2000s and such, and still being sold today. I mean, it's the Four Seasons 3, there's the Emerson Snugger, which I still need to test, but the North Winds. But yeah, low profiles. I mean, this even outperforms the low profile, the 90s version. Well, it's actually going to have one of those installed down here instead, but I figured maybe do something that's newer and easy to replace if it got beat up, and not use something that's not being made no more. Even the Coastal Breeze would have been fine. Just low profile, I kind of like to keep those in good shape, since I could always find use for those somewhere. I was originally going to keep this one installed on that beater Coastal Breeze that I found, but they would have just been running just for display reasons, not really to get moving around in that basement, because that basement was already extremely cool in there. But man, here's high. It has a bit of a wobble now compared to before. Now, in terms of air movement, it's pretty good air move for a fan of its size. It's not amazing, but it's pretty good for what it is. Yeah, in a way, I kind of also figured I'd keep the 4 Minka Aires installed there, just kind of pay tribute to this one after all the abuse I've kind of put it through, running it 24/7 in this basement for a few years. But yeah, no, it's definitely one of my favorite fans in the collection, just for the fact that it was like my first official basement fan. Although it was more so the Incompetit, but this is like more of one that was like a permanent basement fan. You know, Incompetit was just more of a fan I just had there for the time being until I found something better, and then I reinstalled it in a different spot. spin down. I'll show it in reverse. The pull chain that's on it's not the original one. I actually did have to change that, as the original one got stiff over time, where it wouldn't make the click when you pulled the chain. I do want to find a 52-inch one of these at some point in the future, but it's not a priority at the moment. Yeah, now that I've tested the air-cooled Littleton, I can definitely say this is a little bit less powerful than that. Like that one definitely does perform a little bit more than this in terms of air movement, or it performs better than this on the high speed. But no, these are definitely good performance for what they are, and especially if you can find them for pretty cheap. I know I see them on Marketplace here and there, or on eBay for pretty cheap. Definitely good for what they are, especially if you can find them for pretty cheap. The best thing about them, I think, is that they're a quiet hugger fan. They're not one that hums a lot. They're quiet and they move a pretty good amount of air for what they are. Kind of surprised that they didn't make them with reversible blades, but I'm not complaining. It's always simple enough to just put a different set of blades on it and give it weak stroke blades. Yeah, it's definitely a fan that I'm really was happy to have installed down here. But yeah, I figured I'd just get a video of it before I clean it up too, just to kind of show how much it got used. I definitely recommend these, and if you can find them at a cheaper price, definitely get them. If you just need something for like a smaller room to do the job, this will definitely do it. It's not a K55 air movement, it's just a spinner motor, but it's actually a pretty decent performer for what it is. And for something that's on today's market, it's honestly pretty impressive for what it is. Now, I am wondering how powerful the older versions of these are from like the 90s and such. Is there any better in terms of performance? But that would just have to be something hopefully I can find. But yeah, for a newer fan, it really does perform pretty well. Oh, this one being a newer one and such. But the other ones that I have the storage unit, they perform just the same as this one. But yeah, and that'll be it for this video. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for more videos to come.